when he's been on those playmaking support champions. In particular during spring, he had a lot of success on Malzahar and a fair amount of success on Tahm Kench. When you look at his karma record, it was not exactly as optimal as he would have liked. Last week, when they were going up against G2, that's the team. When he was able to play ROCCAT, we saw a lot of impressive stuff coming out from Wadid. So coming into this series, I'd really like to see Wadid playing more playmaking supports, more melee, sort of like Alistair, Braum, Tahm Kench, these things that get in your face and really can set things up for the team.
But we are rattling through the bans. Zac taken away by ROCCAT, no surprises there. And then the Thresh and the Gnar ban, respect being given to Faxi by the Misfits.
Faxi, he did have a lot of success with the Gnar during spring. But looking at what's available, you're now thinking about AD carries, Xayah and Rakan, both up and ready to be picked, along with the Lee Sin, with which both junglers may very well look to try and get their hands on. I personally feel that you want to get yourself the early Xayah here. We know Hansama's been playing it a lot. Misfits as a team do have a lot of value, especially around the Xayah Rakan bottom lane.
Especially since you've seen how well ROCCAT did with that combo last week as well against G2. It was the only game they won when they had the Xayah and Rakan in Hjarnan's and Wadid's hands. Now, they will get the Rakan for themselves, and it's going to be a Galio. Can, of course, flex towards the mid lane, but will probably be played top by Faxi.
Now, we've seen a lot of really cool initiation tools when Galio is paired up with any other kind of champion. This morning in the LCK, we saw a fantastic Kled with Galio, which made for such a strong engagement. And you're going to have a very similar thing with the Rakan and the Galio for ROCCAT. So they have a way to start the fight. Now we need to see some damage coming out as Misfits lock their next two picks in.
There is the Bard for Ignar, has won on that, of course, already this split, so will be pretty comfortable. He's known for his more eclectic support picks, doesn't always sit with the norm.
He's 4-0 on that Bard this year as well, going 3-0 in spring, and having that win over NIP means that this is definitely a comfort pick for him. In terms of playmaking supports, it's definitely one that Ignar can get his hands on. ROCCAT, they're going to answer with an AD carry down the bottom.
I really like this Kalista pick as well. It's something we've started to see out from a few different AD carries, often paired up with the Thresh because of that age-old combination.
Sure.
You chuck him in with the Flay, you can actually do a very similar thing with the Rakan. You've always got that charm at your fingertips.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Wadid chooses to play. Meanwhile, the next set of bans are coming in. Now, if you're looking at ROCCAT, they want to make sure that Faxi can get a favorable matchup. Bans definitely indicate that Galio is going towards the top side, but remember, it can be flexed into the mid. Betsy had the most success during spring when he was actually playing these like in-your-face mid-lane mage kind of champions like the Vladimir and the Swain. So perhaps Galio could be a champion for him, and then you put Faxi on a carry. There are a lot of options available to them, so I think they'll just lock in their jungler now. Something like a Kha'Zix could be good.
Makes a lot of sense. Price Stalker very well known for his Kha'Zix as well. A respect Rengar ban from the Misfits. They don't want Price Stalker hunting his prey throughout the jungle, and it is going to be the Kha'Zix for ROCCAT. Now, two jungler bans from Misfits. They're now looking to pick their top laner and their mid laner. What are we expecting here, Vedius?
Now, both Orianna and Syndra have been banned away, so the next big power pick for Power of Evil is looking to be something like the LeBlanc. It allows him a lot of mid-lane power, he loves to roam around the map, and you have a lot of engage tools down the bottom half of the map as well, so I think that it could be a very solid pick in the mid lane, and if you're top, something that Alfari for a very long time has had a lot of success with, and he's been very vocal about, is the strength of Rumble, so it's no surprise that he would look to gain himself that powerful top lane.
Now, all the games Misfits have won this split have been with Alfari on that Rumble, so he'll be very comfortable on that. This does still, of course, give ROCCAT the opportunity to flex the Galio into mid and pick something that counters the Rumble in the top lane, but there's not too much left on the cards for Faxi to try and harass down Alfari. Victor is the final lock for Misfits, so their whole composition is now secured, and ROCCAT...
Don't get baited! Don't get baited!
I want to get baited, though! I want to get baited!
It's just a hover.
We've heard mid laners talking about the power of Yasuo. It's going to be Vlad. Betsy goes back to his normal pool.
I warned you! I warned you!
I was so excited, Vedius!
He's going for something more comfortable on 7-11. Yasuo did get very slight nerfs to the duration of his Q, the Tempest. But that's not really a Betsy champion either. We talked about how he has the most success on these mid-lane sort of off-tanky mages. Vladimir with Door and Shield, pretty strong right now. Also very slight buffs to Spirit Visage. Also makes him a little bit stronger. Really, he's only being considered more of a counter pick to things like Syndra, and he does well into Victor because it can be, he trades pretty evenly with the Victor, and he can match his wave clear very early on.
I have to see how well Betsy is able to pilot the Vladimir as we get ready to get onto the Summoner's Rift. It is an exciting first game of the third day of the second week of the EU LCS, and I'm really interested to see how these two teams face up against each other, especially Maxlor facing into his former teammates, because he is the member of Misfits that has now joined and is looked at as the member who can skyrocket them towards success.
And the thing is, he's on Lee Sin, an early game jungler. It's all about trying to get ganks, trying to get your laners snowballing. The bottom lane and the top lane are good opportunities to do this. So I'm putting a little bit more pressure on Maxlor. You want to be one of, if not the best jungler in Europe, and you've got some tough competition right now. So this is a good opportunity for you to start by showing you're at the very least better than Pridestalker.
We are about to get onto the Summoner's Rift. It's Misfits Gaming taking on ROCCAT. It's the rabbit versus the cat. And once again, the Safari calls to us. What sort of noises do you think you'd hear in a Summoner's Rift Safari?
Caca, caca.
No, Cacao's actually not in EU LCS anymore, but it was a good try, Vedius. Misfits just gonna set up down towards the bottom lane. Let's have a quick talk about these compositions. ROCCAT especially, with the Vladimir in the mid and the Galio in the top, have a lot of things going on.
So we talked about how they had already great engage. You have the ROCCAT, you have the Galio, you also have the Kalista ROCCAT form of engage as well. So if you didn't think that he could travel far enough before, he's definitely gonna have that distance now. So they've got the engage covered. The question is, in terms of damage, do they have enough? Because Vladimir's going to take a while to scale up. He may very well decide to build a little bit more defensively too. So I'm looking at Pridestalker to be building more aggressively. I'm looking at Hjarnan to get that early 2-item spike so that he can have that big impact. Whereas for Misfits, they're all about the team fighting. You have three big damage threats in the form of Rumble, Victor, and a Xayah. These guys scale extremely well. So the longer this game goes, sure, ROCCAT might have the reliable engage, but Misfits, they're more than happy to take it, because if it results in a 5v5 fight for them, they're going to be happy.
We have seen a lot of Galios being the sort of decisive factor in late game team fights.
Sure.
Yesterday, some great knockups coming out from Chachi on that Galio. Hjarnan is going to face check into Hans Summer here. Ignore there as well. We'll get the double stun with the Cosmic Binding. And this is Misfits being a little bit aggressive in the bot lane, doing a very good job of harassing Radid backwards. And we talked about how impactful the ROCCAT bottom lane has to be. Well, they're going to jump back in. Oh, and there's the Ignite as well. Onto Ignite. He's going to get chased away. Exhaust use. They flash in. His first blood. And now Hans Summer's caught all by himself. Has to try and flash away. ROCCAT with an early kill in the bottom lane.
Misfits, they thought that they were the ones in control. They thought that they were zoning ROCCAT back, but it was ROCCAT waiting to get the turnaround. And this is why we wanted to see Radid on a playmaker. Level 1 goes in onto Ignar, is able to get the knockup to allow the Ren to deal the damage, and it's just easy first blood in favor of ROCCAT. Just look at the amount of sustained damage that they're taking from Ignar. At this point, if you're Misfits, you just back off. You go to the lane, you take the experience advantage that you've got, but Bard early levels, he's squishy, he's feeling too confident, and he walks in. Radid getting that proc of the Courage of the Colossus gives him that extra bit of shielding early on, meaning he doesn't take that much damage. The Rens continue to stack, and you force so many early summoners, along with a first blood for the bottom lane of ROCCAT.
And a bit of frustration for the bottom lane of Misfits. They knew they perhaps should have backed out a little bit earlier there. Hjarnan's going to start scaling up, already has a kill. Hans Summer and Ignar lost a lot of summoners there. Only the supports have their flashes left in the bottom lane, and we talked about how impactful junglers can be early on. Is Maxlor going to come down here? Is Pridestalker going to come down to try and get this snowball rolling even further?
Well, the thing is, right now, in terms of the 2 versus 2, Misfits no longer have pressure. They have no summoner spells. They can't afford to try and go for trades because the bottom lane of ROCCAT will have the experience advantage. So you always have to be mindful of where the minion waves are. And just look at the vision that's already been set up. Because ROCCAT's bottom lane have priority, they've been able to get all this vision control so that if Maxwell tries to come for a gank bot, they're going to be able to read it and react accordingly. So I'm sure Maxwell would love to come down and help, but because of the early deficit that ROCCAT have forced Hans Summer and Ignar to be in, they're the ones in control, and all Pridestalker needs to do is just assist them with the vision. He's gone for an early trackers, he wants to move towards the bottom half of the map and just help them so they can continue to push the advantage that they've already been able to gain.
A weakness we saw out of Pridestalker's play in week 1 was his early game impact didn't live up to what we expected from him coming from Challenger series. In Challenger, he was very much known as a jungler who would get you ahead early on or get himself ahead early on and thus help carry the game. In game 1 against G2, it was 20 minutes before he really had an impact at all. on someone like Kha'Zix, he needs to be at least matching Max Law, if not actually surpassing Max Law in his early presence on the map.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first cast Pride Stalker together, one of the big comments that we had was, how is this rookie going to do? And when we watched him, it was very much like, he has no respect for the positioning of the enemy jungle. He doesn't have a proper understanding of where he should be on the map. And a lot of these concepts he's still learning because the gap between Challenger and LCS is so huge, especially when you're going up against someone like Maxlaw who has been in the LCS for a while. And you can see in terms of the amount of presence that Pride Stalker was able to impact last week, he's currently ranked 9th. Jungle proximity, rather, that's the word I'm looking for, is basically the amount of time that he spends around his laners, and all he was doing was farming on an Elise. We want to see more from Pride Stalker. We want to see if he can be the adequate replacement for Maxlaw to bring ROCCAT back to that former glory that they had at the end of spring.
And interestingly, the only jungler behind him in terms of jungle proximity is Lulex, who is a sub for G2, someone you don't really expect to be able to synergize with the team early on. Maxlaw is going to claim out some vision here. It's the vision that we talked about for ROCCAT. There's an Ocean Drake on the cards as well. But neither team deciding to go for too much in this early game. Both Maxlaw and Pride Stalker willing to farm up to 6. I'm sure Betsy will be happy that no one's ganked his lane as well, as he just wants to farm himself up on this Vladimir.
A very slow game for both teams. Like, what you have to remember is that Hansama, depending on how he chooses to itemize with Xayah, is more, or I consider Xayah to be more of a late game carry. So she's going to be going for something like the Essence Reaver into what could be a rapid fire cannon or a Ruin's Hurricane, depending on your preference, along with an Infinity Edge. So because your E scales with crit, you want to try and get as much crit as you can, and in the late game, you really do hit quite hard. But Hyanan, he's more likely to go for something like a Blade of the Ruin King into Runan. So depending on the itemization of Xayah, it could mean that ROCCAT hit that spike first. If Betsy goes for an early Proto Belt, that's another big spike for the mid laner. So ROCCAT, if they can, they want to try and set these things up early on as Ignar gets engaged.
Wadid jumps in, just looking for the harass from Hyanan. Both the AD carry and the support taking down a little bit here. One of the members of Misfits that we focused on a lot over playoffs and over the last couple of weeks is actually Alfari in the top lane. He's played well on this Rumble, but he's in very much a slump at the moment. Tends to lose his lane early on, not really high on the damage or the kill participation scores either here, Vedius.
Yeah, as you rightly said, you can see right now, this was his spring playoffs performance. So after the season has concluded, when Misfits really were in that kind of a slump, you can see that Alfari was not having the same sort of impact that he did during the regular season. And here in summer, he's maintained that kind of a slump as bottom lane gets engaged on.
And summer has been ignited, will be able to get away from the Rend, but again, it's the consistent harass from Hyanan and Wadid. This is what we wanted to see from them in this bottom lane. They are the main carry a lot of the time for ROCCAT, especially in the early game. They're the ones that need to get ahead to start accelerating ROCCAT towards their later game spikes.
To me, they are the best performing members on ROCCAT as of right now. During the laning phase, they seem extremely consistent, and their ability to build leads is very enjoyable to watch. The fact that they have been able to build up this synergy could be very big for a lot of Hyanan fans who never thought Kasing anyone could fill that role for Kasing, right, because of that legendary duo that existed in the LCS for so long. But it is nice to see that Wadid is doing so well with Hyanan, who recently has been having some great performances in the LCS.
Even if ROCCAT haven't been in the place they would like to be as a team, Hyanan consistent and showing us how good an AD carry he can be.
So just a very small thing, notice that Wadid has actually gone for Courage of the Colossus, and the reason why I bring this up is because I had an interesting Twitter conversation with Wadid where he was very much like, oh, Windspeaker's Blessing is the thing you want to go. The larger shields, the better sustain, it's just a much better overall support item for Wadid. And some other people are like, you should try Courage of the Colossus. It's actually really good because it gives you more trading power. When you go all in, you're surprisingly tanky, and it synergizes well with your passive too. So like, it's a pretty good item. He was like, no, I'm not a fan, not a fan. And then here we are. Looks like he's played around a little bit with it, and he's actually having a lot of early success with a difference in mastery choice.
And that's about adaptability as well. It's something we keep talking about, especially early on in a split, how well your team can adapt to what the meta is on this patch, how the other teams are playing, how you're going to work, and what spikes you're going to look for. Where is the priority for your team? What it's saying, okay, I'll adapt. I understand that perhaps Windspeaker's Blessing as part of this composition isn't the best, because he's kind of the front line. He's the one going in first. Yeah. So he needs that little bit extra tankiness, and you don't get that much tankiness out of Rakan's usual build.
Yep. So I do like the shift up as the game is very relaxed for the time being. Both teams just farming, looking to get those early spikes. A couple of items have been picked up. nothing too exemplary right
You did
now.
say you thought there might be a proto belt coming out from this Vlad. It looks like he's going to go for that, a bit of an earlier spike, Vedios.
Yeah, it will allow him to trade better against Power of Evil, but Power of Evil has been freely allowed to get his first Hex Core upgrade, which means that nothing will happen in mid lane. He presses E, wave gets cleared, he leaves.
Something might happen in bot as Ignar is chased away. Magical Journey, get out of jail free button on that E key makes it pretty easy for him. Betsy's actually going to try and harass Power of Evil. Brightstalker's on his way, but there's no vision of Maxwell. He knocks him back. Betsy has to go to the Sanguine Pool. Power of Evil jumping away. Here's the Galio. Power's so low. They get the kill as Betsy jumps in. Here is Alfari teleporting in, but he's been caught up by Baxi. Tempered Bait comes down. Brightstalker dodges to the side. No golden for him, but there is the equalizer. They're going to jump in. Wanted onto Alfari. He's overheating and he's going down. Ignar joins the fray now off towards the side. Will survive for the time being, but ROCCAT collapsed beautifully in the mid lane.
As you rightly said, very swift response from ROCCAT, coming out the gate swinging as they get themselves 2 very quick kills and very likely the first tower of the game.
And ROCCAT, up until this point, in a lot of people's minds, were battling with ninjas in pajamas to see who wouldn't be last place in Group A. Misfits here just didn't respect the synergy and the speed of ROCCAT on this collapse.
So what Betsy knows is that Galio can very quickly get down to the middle lane thanks to his ultimate. Pridestalker is coming in through the jungle, so he's confident that he can buy enough time for the rest of his teammates to join for them to turn around the fight. Alfari TP's in, planning to get the ulti off, knowing that Ignar's on his way, but he doesn't respect the ability for Wadid to get there first. That means that ROCCAT were just so ready on the play that they're able to react faster, and they've gotten themselves a 2,500 gold lead at only 11 minutes into the game.
And Wadid is showing us why this Rakan is such a high priority for him. He beats a Bard up into the lane. Bard has Magical Journey. He can just jump across the map, basically, but Wadid is able to jump in, help out his team, even before Ignar arrives. Now, they are setting up in a bush here.
They know. That's why they're laughing.
Just having a cheeky giggle in the lane there. Handsummer comes out, and Ignar just off towards the side. Maxwell's been spotted on a ward, looking for those early ganks. Hasn't been as impactful as Pridestalker, who actually has a 20 CS lead as well on this Kha'Zix over Maxlaw's Lee Sin.
And that's a slight difference between Lee Sin and Kha'Zix, because on Ka, you value a lot more from just farming. You scale very well with items. You want a few levels under your belt because of the evolutions that you get from your ultimate. Whereas on Lee, you're more about getting off those early ganks, maybe coming in through the lane, trying to snowball your carries. Like, you want to be having more of an impact in the early game. That's the expectation that you have as a Lee Sin, and so far, Maxwell has been unable to do that.
And Vedios, we're only 12 minutes into this game, but already ROCCAT have a 3,000 gold lead. They have an Ocean Drake. They got first Tower Blood as well. It was a very slow start, but ROCCAT have been able to take the macro objectives and take the fights they want to actually start to move this gold away from Misfits.
And it's a really good position to be in as well, because ROCCAT, they want to be able to play the 1-3-1. If you can, you want to try and have Kalista off onto a side lane because of how great she is at being able to train duel. You also can just send Faxi in mid. You can have a roaming death squad of Wadid and Pridestalker, and you just keep Faxi wave clearing in the mid lane. You have Betsy off on one side lane, Shannon off on the other, and Misfits, their composition is all about playing 5v5. That's what we've seen from them from the last few weeks, where their team fighting, sure, is great, but if you never get into a position to actually fight, you cannot properly utilize your composition.
Tower goes down in the bottom lane. Maxwell has snuck around here, stole the red and is looking to steal Faxi's life. Does have the flash, will be able to get the taunt off. Fails the flash. Faxi pulling a Divers there. He will be able to jump away at the end though. Galio's balanced, guys. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, he says, as he escapes towards Betsy.
The interrupts, they all got used. That means that Faxi, he knew that he'd be fine. He just
That's his
had to be
own
patient.
personal Faxi taxi, isn't it?
Exactly, right? He just rides it on out of there, glides to the safety of his teammates, and while it will result in a Rift Herald being lost, I think ROCCAT are pretty fine with that. They were able to get the bottom tower, they've gotten themselves the mid as well, and all this Rift Herald really do is just get some gold back in favor of Misfits.
I think there's an interesting portion of the game coming up here as well, because if you look at Misfits' vision, it's all based up towards the top side of the map, and ROCCAT's vision is all based down towards the bottom side of the map. ROCCAT are now bringing 2 members up top, so I think Misfits may have an opportunity to play around their superior vision and maybe set something up top.
Well, the goal behind that was very much to try and get the gank down onto Faxi, because with Maxwell being in the top side of the map, then it's very much like, oh, if Pride Stalker comes, there's a very good chance we lose that 2 versus 2. So that also then allowed them to go for that Rift Herald as well. But also ROCCAT, they'd already taken down that bottom tower, which made it easier to get that vision control. So you are right in terms of ROCCAT being able to better set up for the next Dragon. But also, there are 2 of the towers down. This is the final one. So the rotation up to the top side just means that ROCCAT, they're continuing on with their pressure. With only 1 tower down, their ability to control the map has just seemed so different to what we've seen from them in the past.
And I think Maxwell being brought in as sort of the strategic mind behind Misfits hasn't quite paid off for them yet this split. A lot of people saying it's only 1 member being switched, you know, it's only a small change for them, they should be able to adapt, but Vedius, it's 20% of the team. If I changed 20% of your DNA, you'd be a mouse. And at the moment, these rabbits are looking very much like mice.
I agree. I think that's a great analogy. Please don't take 20% of my DNA.
You're a robin, you're a mouse, you're the jam to my scone. ROCCAT are looking up towards the top side. Handsummer is here. There's Ignar just around the corner as well.
I'm still trying to process, like, what would I be like as a mouse? Anyway,
well,
not relevant
the ears
right
would
now.
stay the same, so that's the important thing.
It's very true.
Let's just talk about what Misfits' game plan is at the moment.
So, you know, I want to come back to your Maxwell point.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to drag, because Maxwell we really shouldn't actually focus on in this game, because what you have to remember is that it's Handsummer and Ignar's fault right now that they're in this situation, because they ended up losing the 2 versus 2. Typically as a Bard, you actually have a lot of pressure, especially around the level 1, level 2 mark, and if Maxwell was going to try and gank anywhere, it would have been the bottom lane, because that was the lane that had the most crowd control, and had a lot of damage available to it, and it's the best lane to try and get going ahead early, especially trying to gank a Galio is going to be very difficult, same for Vladimir. So, but the problem is, because of the amount of pressure that they lost, losing all their summoner spells early, and all the vision the ROCCAT was able to get in the bottom half of Misfits jungle, that meant that he couldn't really go bot, and there weren't really many places for him to gank. So the best thing he could have done is try and set up some kind of tower setup, but he didn't have the room to do that, especially after losing that big fight in the middle lane.
At the moment, the fans think that Misfits are going to win. ROCCAT in a winning situation, though, still 3,000 gold ahead. I'm not even sure if this gets the tower. Faxi will just clear away the Rift Herald and get some damage down, but still no tower on the board for Misfits Gaming.
They are struggling. A very common scene that we have when it comes to utilizing the Rift Herald. It always just gets 1 tower, and then it just kind of flops and dies.
Well, recently, we haven't even seen it get that single tower. It feels like teams just tend to just put it out in the lane where their top laner is and say, well, maybe we'll get the tower here.
Yeah, it's also kind of like an investment thing, whereas you're guaranteed a large chunk of damage, so you know that you can come back to that tower a little bit later. But it's super important that you have the proper setup for it. You really want to be utilizing the cannon minion too, because you want to get the tower to focus anything but the Rift Herald, because the amount of damage that it does is based on its current health. But we really are just seeing teams put it down and being like, it will be fine. But it is really squishy. It's super easy to kill. Or surprisingly easy to kill, rather. So.
If you can get on that eye, you can definitely chunk it out quite a lot. ROCCAT continuing just to play these Australia lanes, having their bot lane up towards the top side. They've gained vision once again over the river, and it's very difficult for Misfits Gaming to actually do anything here. If you look across the scoreboard, Kianan's actually extended his lead, has finished his Blade of the Ruined King, has 3 daggers as well as a 30 CS lead over Handsummer.
And with the dragon spawning very, very soon,
Infernal Drake.
ROCCAT are poised to take that objective without much contention, because Misfits are not in a position to fight. You can see Handsummer is going for the scaling itemization. He's going Essence Reaver into some kind of attack speed item, followed what will likely be by the Infinity Edge, which means that same goes for Power of Evil. He wants to get himself a second, maybe even a third big mage item before he's really dealing the big damage. And you're looking at exactly a similar thing for Alfari. So Misfits, they just need to buy time. But ROCCAT, they're not easing up on the pressure. They have split the map up in a 1-3-1 setup, even though they have a few more members in the top side. And it's just constantly playing around the entire map, making it difficult for Misfits to really group up and make any kind of fight happen.
So you say they're continuing to put down the pressure, and I can see that in terms of, you know, they got the Infernal Drake, maybe they're getting a tiny bit of damage top, but it feels very much like the game has decelerated from a flurry of action early on. Is this what ROCCAT want? Are they willing just to slow the game down?
Yeah. No, this is fine, as long as they just need to keep pushing, right? Because Baron is up in 40 seconds. Once they're finally able to take this tower down, which they will eventually, as Betsy is forced to run.
That's what the Chronobelt gives you. He's going to turn back. Look at that Hemoplay. The TP's coming in as well. ROCCAT want the big play. There's the gravity field as Betsy gets pulled back. Faxi comes in just to act as a bodyguard, a beefy man that you'd see outside a nightclub that would turn you away. That's what Faxi is at the moment.
Yeah, and Misfits, they were certainly deterred as Faxi now zoning away the blue. Will be another objective, but he needs to be careful.
He's still very, very tanky. Has that Spirit Visage and a Warden's Mail. Here's the jump in, the charm there. Comes the Hero's entrance as well. The knock-up onto Alfari. Power down towards the bottom side. Maxwell's lowest. Hyanan takes him out alongside Ignar. It's a double for Kalista. Alfari has to flash the wall. PoE not in the best of spots anymore as Faxi chases him away. That's a triple. Hyanan with a long-range pierce.
Beautiful javelin toss coming out from Hyanan. ROCCAT with another successful teamfight win. And this is exactly what we were talking about. The mid-game spike for ROCCAT is so much stronger than that for Misfits. They are not strong enough to fight right now. And what started off as them just trying to get a pick onto Betsy resulted in a full-blown engagement around the blue buff. You can see that this is a very different ROCCAT from what we have been seeing. And Misfits, they have just not been respecting the early playmaking of ROCCAT.
ROCCAT with their highest gold lead in a long, long time as well. 6,000 gold up, 20 minutes in. Let's have another look at this fight.
And you can see at this point, I feel like Misfits should just disengage. They think they've caught Faxi out, but Wadid is just using this as an opportunity to go for an engagement. While it was a great ulti from Hansama, Hyanan and Wadid just go off onto the side and are able to pick themselves up a very easy double kill. Kalista with the Blade of the Ruin King is just shredding through these members, and then he uses his trinket to get enough vision to get the javelin toss over the wall, and you can see the frustration on Alfari's face as his stats continue to get ruined.
Alfari definitely not in the best of shapes on the Rift at the moment. 4 kills now for Hyanan as he finishes the Runan's Hurricane. Exactly what we thought he would be building on this Kalista. Get those pierces out even more often, get more Ren stacks going. And it means that you have objective control as well. Karzik's so good at objectives alongside that Kalista.
So now the Baron becomes the big point for ROCCAT, because sieging onto these tier 2s will be difficult. There is a huge amount of wave clear on Power of Evil. Hansama, for an AD carry, his wave clear is surprisingly strong as well, and you always have to respect the possibility of an Alfari ultimate just running along your entire team. So ROCCAT, they really need the assistance of Baron to be able to properly siege any further, which is why they're investing a lot of vision control around the top half of Misfits jungle. Betsy is keeping mid lane pushed. Hyanan's doing the same top, and they find a pen.
Flash charm onto Ignar. Pridestalker sinks in the claws, and it's another death on the Bard. 0-3-0 for Ignar. Has not had a good game at all.
If you guys are curious as to how Wadid is able to land so many great engages, would highly recommend you check out the breakdown from Zyrene, where he demonstrates how fast Rakan can be getting these engages. It is so difficult to react, as we now see Misfits reacting to the Baron.
Equalizer comes down, Wadid's going to jump in. There's the hero's entrance. Hyanan's chased off towards the side though, and ROCCAT's AD carry goes down. It's a 2-for-1 exchange at the moment. ROCCAT continuing to chase down onto Power of Evil, but they are 3v4. Lee Sin's up towards the top side. Ignar coming back to join the fray. Hansama gets the root off, and ROCCAT will have to just run away with their tail between their legs.
This is actually a really good fight for Misfits, because remember, they lost Ignar earlier on, and while they did lose Alfari in this trade, they ended up getting a kill down onto both Hyanan and Pridestalker. They'll get some of this shutdown gold back in their pockets. They will prevent ROCCAT from being able to take the Baron, and it will just give them more time to scale, because that's all they need to do right now. Misfits just have to buy as much time as they possibly can. And you could argue this is a little risky from ROCCAT because they didn't have full control. They allowed Misfits to walk up to the Baron before they could really get a good fight off. And Hyanan, he kind of got abandoned. The thing about Rakan is he is really good at engaging, but his peeling power is not the strongest. So while he was with the rest of his team trying to get kills, he ended up leaving his AD carry, who couldn't really hold his own in that 1v2.
It is the problem as well if you have the hero's entrance always going onto the ROCCAT.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
if you put that Hyanon, it gives him that damage reduction, it keeps him a little bit safer, but ROCCAT tunneled on towards trying to get the kills, didn't realize that Hyanon was getting caught out by Maxlaw on the back. And now we settle into the mid-game. Something both these teams are very accustomed with is being slightly behind around the mid-game, but Misfits here, 6,000 gold down onto ROCCAT, and we'll be looking for a way back into it. Maxlaw is just going to clear out some vision around the Baron pit. I think Misfits realize this is the major point of contest for the next few minutes.
Just another little thing for any viewers that may have only recently come back to watching the LCS. You will notice a very early Banshee's Veil on both mid laners. On patch 7.11, it was actually buffed so that it gave even more magic resistance, which makes it extremely valuable, especially in this game in particular, where there is so much magic damage. But the ability power that it gives also makes it an incredibly valid second item too. 70 ability power, 60 magic resistance means that it is an item definitely worth investing in earlier.
Makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we see the AD carries going towards that Guardian Angel as well, does a similar job for them. AD alongside bringing them back to life. It looks like Hyanon might be going towards a Bloodthirster on that Kalista. It's a very aggressive decision if he does go there, but
I think it's a super expensive item as well. Part of me would have preferred a Death Dance, especially if a lot of the ultimates aren't actually going to be invested onto keeping Hyanon alive. That item gives you a lot of sustain, a lot of valuable AD, and it's actually cheaper than that of Bloodthirster 2. So it seems to be a preference thing for Hyanon. I do feel like, as an item, Death Dance has been slightly underutilized, but regardless, ROCCAT, they're still in full control of the Baron area. They still have the gold lead, and their ability to find picks and force these fights is still well within their control.
And alongside that, someone we haven't talked a huge amount about this game is Pridestalker in the jungle. We heard in the roll-in, in the video just before the game started, Bessie talking about him saying he thinks he's mechanically better than Maxlaw. And here, his macro play has been on point as well. Perhaps he is just an upgrade, and at the moment, ROCCAT looking to get the knock-up, but cannot quite get the connection onto Hansama or Ignat.
That was actually disgusting. Like, the fact that Hansama was able to dodge that with his ulti, that is some insane reaction speed from him, as now they may have caught out Betsy.
Has got the Sanguine Pool still up. Maxlaw will get that one out, and then Betsy will just get back behind his tower. The problem being for Misfits, although this gives them a little bit of time to gain vision around the Baron, they can't really do much more off it, because Betsy can just lifesteal or spell vamp off this next wave if needs be.
And ROCCAT, they're finding it harder and harder to start these fights off, which means more and more time for Misfits to scale up. Remember that they have not taken a single turret yet. If ROCCAT drop the ball and start giving away this free gold to Misfits, that gold gap starts to become closer, and this team fighting Misfits lineup starts to get stronger and stronger. So ROCCAT, again, just think back to what we were talking about earlier, pressure. ROCCAT, they need to maintain control. Vision is super important. Pressure is super important. Playing this 1-3-1 setup where they can just continue to siege onto all these lanes and split Misfits apart is the best way the ROCCAT want to be playing the game right now.
And look at how much Power of Evil is doing there, almost twice the damage of any other champion. Maxlaw does get the kick away, will be able to smite the Dragon as well. Obviously his D key working for the time being. It's not a Baron though. Have to see how he manages to play around that later on in the game. Still only 6,000 gold ahead for ROCCAT here. Stagnating a little bit for them, but in picks and bans we were talking about, they're scaling, and they've got a Galio, they've got a Vlad, they've got a Kalista, they've got champions that work later on into the game.
Yes. I just feel that they're not as strong as a full-on hyper carry Xayah, a full-on hyper carry mid lane mage in the form of Victor, and a Rumble. So while I completely agree with you, late game, this is not a weak team for ROCCAT. In terms of the comparison, I definitely would give the side to Misfits and engage that once again.
Ignat's just gone! Teleport is going to come in from Alphari, but that's too little too late. It needs to be quicker. You need a teleport that just gets you there instantly, almost like a Galio ultimate. That's exactly what they wish they had.
Only some hero could make his entrance.
If only they could stand united as a team. Betsy's going to try and jump in with the Hemo onto power. They get the knockup from Baxi. A three-man taunt as well, and Wadid's going to follow it up with the knockup. That is dirty CC from the ROCCAT crew. They'll get another kill. They've taken Ignat, they've taken PoE, and they're going to look to take the Baron.
And this is the best way for ROCCAT to fight. Rather than going for these full 5v5, pressure individuals and force Misfits to react so that they can never have the fight in the way in which they want it. ROCCAT playing this beautifully as they get themselves the Baron that they have been trying so hard to get for the last 10 minutes.
Tempered Fate will slow it for the time being, but Maxwell's nowhere near that. They're not even going to contest. Baron goes down. ROCCAT, 9,000 gold ahead, 30 minutes in. Would not have predicted this before the game started.
So you can see Betsy, he just goes in alone, right? He knows that he has Faxi support coming in from behind. They know that Wadid can just dart in and out of the fight and just keep Misfits guessing. And just notice how Misfits, they're so disjointed. They never get a fight on their terms. They never get into a position where they get the optimal setup for their own team fighting, and it's all because of Wadid. This guy is playing so well, finding pick after pick after pick, forcing Misfits to always be in the unfavorable scenario. And then ROCCAT, with a gold lead that big, it's difficult for them to lose.
And now we're starting to see items picked up across the board as well. Black Cleaver for Pride Stalker, the Bloodthirster is finished. On towards Shannon, and there's a Void Staff onto Betsy. He's trying to just get as much magic penetration down as he can.
So damage has been completed for ROCCAT.
Damage has been completed.
The deeps is what you're trying to tell me.
It looks like Hansama might be going towards a QSS, which would make a lot of sense. There is a charm here onto Maxwell. Double knock-up. Hyanan just absolutely melting through the opposition. Ignar's going to fall as well. Wadid picks up the kill in the supportal combat. Hansama chased away by Faxi. And the rest of Misfits too late on the trigger.
I'm loving this Kalista Rakan combo. Zaya, I think you have to be careful because there is a new lady on the block and she is fierce when this bottom lane get together.
Yeah, how does that work, though? They're going to get the inhibitor tower alongside an inhibitor here, but you have to feel a little bit sorry for Zaya because she's had her heart broken by Rakan, who's left her. And then he keeps killing her time and time again.
Well, she hasn't actually died yet. That's the thing. He's not focusing her. He's jealous that Bart has taken his spot. So he's taking all his anger out onto Ignar. And it is a fine strategy.
It's a lover's tryst between these two bot laners. The inhibitor fell in the top lane. They're looking for mid as well. ROCCAT will be able to dodge away from the Tempered Fate. Alphari does have an equalizer here. There's a very narrow window that ROCCAT are channeling through, but they do not quite go for the engage.
ROCCAT, they can be pretty happy though. They get themselves the top lane inhibitor. We didn't see that, the replay cut, it's fine, nothing happened. So here you think, okay, they can get Shannon out of nowhere. They were not expecting Wadid in the brush. And you can see that even Lee Sin can be charmed by the wit of Rakan as they land the two-man taunt, they land the double knock-up, and the damage from Shannon is just way too much.
Maxwell just knows he's been picked up by an incredible pickup line there from Hyanan. Of course, can't see Rakan to see how great his cape is. Just has to work off those verbal cues.
What's your favorite pickup line?
How much does a polar bear weigh?
How much?
Enough to break the ice, Vedius. Oh yeah. I don't have to usually use them, women come to me. Anyway, 12 kills to 2 in favor of ROCCAT at the moment. It's a 12,000 gold lead for them as well. Gargoyle Stoneplate picked up on the Gargoyle in the top lane. How are Misfits reacting to this? They're still behind across the board. Only 2 items on Alphari, only 3 items on PoE. They are just not in the best of spots.
At this point, it's one of those things where you type in chat, hey guys, we've got the late game, right? And they do. They certainly do have the late game. They need ROCCAT to stop doing this because otherwise they're going to lose the game.
3-man charm, 3-man knock-up. What more can you ask for? Well, a few kills would be nice. ROCCAT are looking for them. PoE with the Hemoplague down. He's going to tick. The Tempered Fate stops him, but now he's caught in the midst of all of ROCCAT. Wadid on a killing spree. Maxwell, Alphari, and Hansama just having to run away from the ROCCAT crew. They are rolling all over the base of the Misfits.
I'm loving these wombo combos from ROCCAT. We saw it against G2. We're seeing it again against Misfits. And ROCCAT are poised to take the first game in this series.
And this is the ROCCAT that lost to 3 subs last week. What a change a week can make. What a difference 7 days can be in the history of a team. ROCCAT gonna take the Nexus Towers. They're looking for a few more kills to boot. Wadid jumps in, Hansama goes down, Alphari gets jumped on, Pride Stalker makes his mark, and ROCCAT with a return to form go 1-0 up.
GG indeed from ROCCAT. And to TLDR this series, do not give Wadid Rakan.
I think not giving kills away at level 1 probably helps a little bit as well.
This man, like, he played phenomenally. Very impressed with so many of his engagements, the fact that he was finding so many different picks, just the way in which he was playing was just fantastic. And because of the fact that they won that early 2 versus 2, they got that early lead down the bottom lane, and then they transitioned it across the map, and they never lost it. That lead never really dropped. They had one slightly risky Baron where they did end up losing 2 members, but then after that they identified the issues and they very quickly rectified them. This was a good performance from the members of ROCCAT.
Well, Misfits will look to ban it out. Wadid actually has a combined KDA of 29 on ROCCAT. Only died once in the 2 games he's played it, looking incredibly strong on that. Hjarnan as well on that Kalista. I love that combo. I think it fits if the Thresh is banned away, works incredibly well. Well, ROCCAT came out swinging with a win to start off the series. Shox and the guys are ready to break down the action.
Yeah, that we are. Thank you so much, ROCCAT. Fantastic game from them, honestly. And let's go back to what we talked about before the game started. Was we were going to look at Maxlor and we were going to look at possibly ROCCAT's bottom lane to make something happen. And they grabbed the tools for themselves and they made something happen.
Yeah, during the pick and ban phase, we thought, ooh, actually, Rakan Kalista could be almost as deadly as Xayah Rakan at the same time. And level 1, we went right into the bottom lane. Everybody was just fighting in the river. And this is where Misfits completely underestimate the amount of damage that ROCCAT have right here. They see that they've won the trade. They should be backing off already, but they kind of get baited in by the fact they got a double binding before Ignar goes in, doesn't respect the Ignite. Rend level 1 comes out, and Hjarnan picks up an easy kill. This is how devastating a Kalista paired with a support that has a decent amount of crowd control can be. It's pretty much just a kill lane.
Yeah, and ROCCAT does not stop going aggressive here. We see bets in towards the mid lane. Maxlor is in the right spot for the counter gank, but I mean, on Lee Sin with these lanes, there's not really a lot he can do, and that's just goes to show there's pretty much nothing he can do on this Lee Sin. He is in the right position, but still not enough, and Wadid earlier on the roam than Ignar, and this Rakan has just been amazing.
Yeah, interestingly that you bring it up, Maxlor didn't really have that many options. It's not like Pride Stalker took over the game either. I don't think the junglers were much of a factor. It was really a lot happening from Wadid's Rakan and just from the combo that ROCCAT was able to pull out with that Galio as well.
Right, Pride Stalker kind of farmed up to 6 and just waited for a lot of the game. There was a lot of vision that the Misfits were actually able to still secure. But when you looked at how Misfits were playing around that, they weren't really prepared for how quickly Galio roamed, how quickly Wadid was roaming on Rakan either. And in the early game, these fights just went over to ROCCAT time and time again. Misfits didn't seem prepared at all.
No, and the question usually is for ROCCAT. They did have some good starts already. We saw that the Rakan and the Xayah is something that even versus G2 they could make something happen with. But when you watch ROCCAT, you're always wondering, will they push their advantage or will they kind of just sit back? And I think that's what pleasantly surprised me in this one, is that they were able to push their advantage, even netting Hjarnan, or how would you say it?
Hjarnan bakom allt. Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
Finally got the Swedish.
Hjarnan. Huge difference, honestly.
Absolutely huge, come on.
But he did also get a triple kill a little bit later, and then ROCCAT were completely set up for success.
Yeah, for sure. They just keep going. And here we see towards this point in the game, Hjarnan is about 1,500 gold up towards, if you compare him to Hansama, as well as 2 levels. So absolutely huge, this fight on the Kalista. Throws in Wadid and just flashes over the wall. He can go so aggressive with his bottom lane.
And Faxi holds like 4 people off at different times. Misfits is split up, and then Hjarnan trinket into that perfect spear over the wall. And Hjarnan, this is what we were talking about before the game. This is a guy that can carry the game if given the right tools, and certainly First Blood at level 1, plus a devastatingly strong support alongside him that just starts fights, and then a Galio comes in and smashes everybody into the ground. Like, that's the kind of thing that gives Hjarnan so much time to just carry the team fight.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a key element here. Rakan for Wadid is just... I mean, it is a very strong champion, of course, and that ult and just being able to charm so many people and being protected with the Galio just makes for a wombo combo that is very, very hard to beat when ahead.
Yeah, and when they were ahead, we saw the last fight of the game, really. This is just this wombo combo in action. Triple, torn into the Galio, knockup, everything comes through, and then this is ROCCAT just being super far ahead at the end of it.
Yeah, and looking at Power of Evil in this fight, I think is interesting because he is Misfits' late game insurance. Victor scales so well into late game. In this stage of the game, he should be able to put down so much damage, but playing an immobile mid laner without the cleanse against this combo of Wadid, as we can see there with this Rakan. 97% kill participation on Rakan in the summer split. What do you think about that, Stress?
That's pretty high. He's also got, what was that, a 29 KDA, if my math was good enough on that. And from that, ROCCAT actually have the performance with the least number of deaths for the team this year. Only 2 deaths, I believe it was, by by the end of that. And ROCCAT actually looking, dare I say it, at least against Misfits, closer to what we saw of ROCCAT at the end of last
I think you can definitely say that because this was a convincing victory. And obviously, Maxor, before the series came out, was like, well, I don't really care specifically that it's ROCCAT, but hey, you're going to have to get your mind in the game because what can they do? I think an obvious one is definitely don't let the combination of Galio and Rakan through. Or do you think that they should both be banned out? Or where is Misfits looking to go here?
I think they were just surprised in the draft in the first game, honestly, with how wrong it went, leaving Galio, Rakan, and Kalista open. So I definitely think that they will be adapting both in the picks and bans.
Yeah, I know why they banned Faxi's Nah. Obviously, it's a pick that came out for Faxi for a lot during spring. I don't necessarily think you need to ban that in Phase 1 if he picks that. I trust in Alphari to have enough matchups that you can play into the Nah. So I think that may be the adjustment we see now in Game 2.
Yeah, we'll see what happens for Misfits. The players kind of looked invisible, right? So we're going to have to see them in the next game. We'll see if Misfits Gaming can strike back when we return for Game 2 right after this.
And we are about to get onto the Summoner's Rift. It's Misfits